Hello YouTubers, Troz here, back playing some more Kerbal Space. I built this rocket ahead of time, because, well, it took quite a while actually. We are going to attempt this extract ore from the moon and deliver it to Kerbin mission. And so this requires us to get 500 units of fresh ore from the moon. This is checked, but this is only because we acquired 500 ore on our current moon base, but that doesn't have any way of returning it to Kerbin. So basically, we're going to fly this rocket. It's basically a vertical version of what we have as our base currently, with a few modifications. We have less fuel, just one fuel tank on the actual lander. It does have this kind of wide landing base. It's got 8 legs on it, and 4... Well, these are actually these small tanks, technically. They're under fuel tanks, actually. They're small holding tanks, compared to the radial holding tanks, which are even smaller. But we have 4 on the bottom here, and there's actually 2 more in this top part. This top part here is going to be the return. These hold 300. We need 500, so I have 2 of them and a bunch of parachutes, and basically a little amount of fuel and 4 tiny engines, just because I didn't want to have one engine blasting right into the glass here. And I'm hoping this is enough to return to Kerbin. It should be. I mean, you basically just need to get into orbit of the moon, which shouldn't take too much. Delta V, and then just barely get out of the moon's grasp and get in the atmosphere, and that's it. So we have 2 2 drogue chutes. Well, I guess they are radial. 2 radial drogue chutes, 8 normal parachutes, and actually 1 nose cone chute. A little bit of power on there because it doesn't have a solar cell. We probably should put a solar panel on it, even if it's just a single solar panel. I said a single. At least we'll have some way of recharging, because it does take a day or so to get back from the moon. Otherwise, we have some nice big fixed solar panels. We got some fuel cells that we can use to generate electricity. We got some bigger solar panels, and we have 2x3 solar panels up here, and the requisite mining drills and a converter, just so we can generate more fuel for this to move it around. We also have a full complement of science in this little cargo bay, and the engine is the standard Poodle. Underneath this, we have somewhat of a monster of a rocket. Big fins. We got these outer stages with the Twin-Boar rockets in asparagus staging. Basically, they go off in pairs. This is the first pair. It doesn't have the solids on it because these actually burn out before the solids do. But they're producing like 3 times as much thrust as the solids, and I believe this should be enough to get us to the moon. This is a nice meaty engine down here. The biggest one I have, and I believe the biggest one the default game has, producing 4,000 kilonewtons in a vacuum, whereas this one only produces 2,000, so half as much, although it is a bit more fuel efficient. This with an ISP of 315 in a vacuum, whereas this is 340, so it's a bit more fuel efficient, but we really need the thrust. I did test a takeoff with this, and even though these are hanging all out there, it didn't really seem to make an issue. In fact, this, compared to how tall it was, this was rather stable. So we'll see if that holds up. I did make a few slight modifications after my test, as in, like, I forgot some batteries. So I have some batteries now. In fact, we have 8 of them, 2 on either side of these holding tanks. Maybe that will cause a difference. We also have these radiators here because we do tend to generate heat. Although I think the fuel conversion likes heat, I don't think the drills like heat. So that's why they're on these little supports and landing legs that are holding the drills. So that was the explanation. Let's go for liftoff. Let's save everything. Let's make sure we have some Kerbins here. Who do we... we're going to have Verica as our pilot. And we only have one scientist? Did not realize we only had one scientist. Well, let's save this. Let's go quickly back to the Space Center. Go to the astronaut complex. We're at capacity. How much? How much was my ship? Is that something I did not, what did I call it? Or did I call it? Yes, I know this is riveting or return. Oh, we can afford it? Okay. I was afraid it'd be like $1 million, but it's not. It's not what I wanted to do either. Upgrade. Low stupidity scientist. Oh, you're expensive to hire. Well, or return. No, Raimi. But we will take you along, just not as the initial pilot. Verica will take Bill with us. 2 scientists. Yeah, actually, we'll leave Bill here. Because... And we'll take Raimi. I'm not sure this is ever getting back. The top part we'll get back. I'm not sure the rest is. Alright, let's go launch this vessel. Oh, that is something I forgot. An extra strut on those. Okay. I think they'll be fine though. SAS. Let's set up our map here. Yep. We're gonna put the thrust up to full. Everybody ready? We're going to launch in 3, 2, 1. Blast off. Alright, did not do this last time, but I'm gonna aim over like a few degrees here. That looks pretty good. And we're gonna throttle down a bit. It's maybe 2/3 of that. So we don't want to get going too fast in the lower atmosphere. Because if it's one thing we have, it's drag. And getting up near 300 meters per second, below 10,000, is going to greatly increase that drag. Let's actually throttle down a bit more. We're about to stage away those first boosters. Here we go. That was the wrong boosters. Let us revert flight to launch only. Because I just remembered that I did change up the staging in the last test. We need to swap these up. Basically, I let go of the solids, and then they blew up the top of the liquid boosters that still had fuel in them. SAS, throttle up to full. 3, 2, 1. Let's try this again. About 10 degrees. And doing okay. Gonna throttle back, and then let's say when we get to 200, we'll throttle to half, which is right between the two T's. Now our solid fuel is still got some left, but our liquid boosters are gonna run out first. But now the liquid booster is gonna come off first. Or maybe not, because I might have throttled back a little too much. And here we go. Actually, about the same time. Let's throttle back up. And now we can turn a bit more over, say 50 degrees or so, up from the horizon. Really getting into space is about going sideways really fast, so you miss the surface. Going up is the easy part. You don't need to go that quickly up. It's only, well, in this game it's only 70 kilometers up that you need to be going. Alright, so this is going to be rising, and it is, and once it gets to about 80 kilometers, 80,000 meters, we are good. We can actually lean over a bit more. We want to kind of be traveling in the direction we're moving, or at least thrusting in the direction we're moving. Let's aim that a bit down, and oh, we have lost our next stage. Let's stage that away. Some Separatrons on there, 2 on the back pushing, well, sort of away, and 1 on the nose pushing away and back. Get those away real nice. And this is coming up. And we'll get this to about 80 kilometers. And shut down the engine for a bit. There we go. Let's add a maneuver here. And this will be the remaining of our maneuver or thrusting to get into orbit. And it's actually going to be a bit... didn't get going as quickly as I would have liked. That should be perfect. It's going to be a 50-second burn. Alright, now I'm trying to nose down here, but we're only using our reaction wheels. And we still got a lot of fuel in here. Yeah, so this tank is half filled and all the rest down are also half filled. So, a lot of mass. Alright, with a 50-second burn, we should start burning at 25 seconds to burn half before and half after the node, and that's coming up in about 10 seconds. And we're almost lined up for this burn, so that's good. And we're going to burn in 3, 2, 1, go. Alright, stay right on target there. We should have fuel left over after this burn. Basically, the fuel in here is just for landing. So we need fuel to actually get us off to the moon. Lined up pretty good here on the node. I'm gonna slow down. Slow down a bit. Alright, I think that means we're in orbit. And how close are we? Okay, 77 is great. 77 by 81, that's close enough to circular for me. And yeah, look at that, we have just about these bottom 3 tanks left, which is great. Alright, let us set the moon as a target and plan a maneuver to get there. Traditionally, if you've known how the little solar system here in Kerbal Space Program is set up, the moon is the right distance and rotates at the right speed so that if you thrust about the time it comes up above the horizon, you will get out to its orbit at about the same time it will get curved over that far. So that's always a good rule of thumb for your initial guess of where to burn. That will be, I think, a decent enough initial approach. 845 meters per second, and it's in 22 minutes. Still haven't leveled these guys up enough to be able to have them approach a target, but I believe we have to go to at least another planet to do that. And, of course, bring them back safely. Let's turn on our RCS system a little bit to help here. That is radial out. So I'll just say aim at radial out. And that'll be close enough. We can then fast forward the 21 minutes and then do this maneuver. While we're now safely in space, let's extend these panels on either side. Just because if we're going to be facing into the sun, these panels on the side won't really do us much good. Say hold right there. Hold right there. Yeah, it'll take a bit to stop, so I'm going to use some of the RCS. Alright, let us time warp. About 20 minutes. We should be on the other side of Kerbin. Right, we're in the dark. Let's flip around here. We'll should see a moonrise. Let's. Well, here comes the sun. We got about 2 minutes. Let's go a little bit more. In fact, we'll tell them to go prograde. And at about a minute and a half to go. Looks like this is a little more than a minute before the burn. To get lined up. Let's check the map one last time. Yeah, so the moon is going to just rise as we start this burn. Alright, I'm switching to stability. Just hold this direction. This is the direction we want. And we have, let's see, it's about a 40-second burn. We want to start at 20 seconds, so we have about 25 seconds until the burn. And we'll be watching for that moonrise just after we start. Burn about 10 seconds. Three, two, one. Actually, 3, 2, 1. Start the burn. It's off a bit. Why are we swinging around? Well, RCS to help with that. I'll watch the map here. And just a low thrust here to finish off. Might get that maybe 500,000. That's good. So we are on our way to the moon. And we still have a good amount of fuel left. Which is terrific, actually, because that was mostly a guess at how much fuel we would need. Luckily, I tend to overguess rather than underguess. But I've been playing this since, I think, version 0.11, so... And there's the moon. Didn't actually see it rise, but I wasn't actually paying attention too much to the sky. I was watching the nav ball, which is what you really are supposed to do. Let's turn off RCS. We still have plenty, though. And, well, it's time to... let's time warp there. And watch Kerbin disappear. And watch us approach the moon. This is about a day trip out here. Alright, we just actually got in the moon's sphere of influence. A little closer. And here's where we need to slow down and get captured. I'm going to bring this down to about 30 kilometers. Seems to be a decent altitude to approach from. Not too close, but not too far either. It's just a little hard to read with all these other things here. That's about right. We now want to go retrograde. Let's turn on RCS to help that out a bit. I turned off RCS, or SAS I should say, so that the RCS would turn off and we just continue with our current momentum spinning around, so as to not waste fuel. I mean, spinning doesn't cost anything except that the SAS system would keep firing the RCS, using it up and also using electricity up in the process. Now, we can make more monopropellant. So it's not that big of a deal, but why waste it if you don't have to? Seemingly, though, something weird is happening, and we're starting to go back. Let's manually do this. Really wanted to get this orbit burn done before we ended the episode. Alright, here we go. Starting to come around. Not really sure what happened there. It seemed like we were slowing down even though we shouldn't have been. Alright, there we go. We're pretty much lined up. Let's time warp here. And in fact, I'm gonna, can we say warp to next maneuver? Alright. Let's turn on SAS again and just say retrograde because that's what we want at this point. And we got a 12-second burn, which at this point isn't that much. Not after the burn we did to get away from Kerbin. So let's well, we're gonna start. I'm gonna start about 10 seconds, do a half throttle burn or so. Alright, here we go. And I'm ready to cut the engines. We're just watching this come in. I'm going to throttle down a bit and just stop at about 30. 30. Well, what's the actual 35? There we go. And, well, I'll take this episode a little longer. And, well, we want to land someplace with ore, particularly, I would believe. Let's put this, well, either here or over here. I'm thinking this red is better. Yeah. In particular, because, well, we could land over here. I just don't think our orbit. Well, we'll see how our orbit works out. So before we end this episode, let's circularize this, and that will put us in good position to land next time. 30 by 31. Why is that way down there? Oh well. Great. Turn on RCS. How are we? We're doing fine on RCS fuel. My biggest resource right now is actually time. I want to finish this up as quickly as possible. And really, RCS fuel will, once we land, we'll have plenty of it. And we're not going to use more than 100 units landing, I wouldn't think. Yep, slow down, slow down. You can see the RCS thrusting the other way, trying to not overshoot, although it did. Come on back. Come on back. Get you on stability assist. And slow down, slow down. Yeah, just something like that. It's time warp. Ten, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 minute. And some odd seconds. Speaking of some odd seconds, we have a 4-second burn here. And just about 5 seconds, about Well, half throttle again. And let's go. Well, not sure how that happened, but we're a bit off. What's known as a wonky orbit. It's good enough. We're in an orbit, low orbit, around the moon. Not really an efficient way to correct that, but it's a correction. And, well, yeah, that wouldn't be too bad of a correction, but that'll have to be next time. Already took up more of this episode than I wanted to. Let's turn on the lights. We actually do have some lights here, at least on our upper stage. We got a spotlight here shining down to help with landing. We've got a light here shining up the side just to illuminate it a little bit. And we got a light here which is also supposed to help with landing, or at least seeing the surface in the dark. It doesn't light up too much of the lower ship, or actually even the upper ship, but hey, it's what we have. Well, thanks for watching. I'll see you guys next time with more Kerbal Space Program, where we attempt to land this thing, preferably over here somewhere. So, yeah, maybe we'll do this maneuver and then come on in here. I'll see maybe adjusting that maneuver a little bit to get this a little lower. But that'll be next time. So I'll see you then.